Josh, what are your expectations for Drake Maye?
High, I mean, he's the quarterback of our football team, and so I've always had high expectations for the quarterback room in general. I know how hard they work, so I have confidence in his preparation. I know there's going to be opportunities to improve as we go through every day, every week. It's my first opportunity to coach a game with him and with a lot of our guys, so I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot, but I always go in, my feelings are always based on what I see every day and how hard they work and what they put into it. And I couldn't ask Drake to do more than what he's doing. He's trying, to understand exactly what we're doing. Is really trying to be as well versed as he can on what we know from the Raiders. But just looking forward to going out there and watching him play and seeing our entire group out there together.
Welcome in. It is Foxborough Rush on a Friday, of course, getting set for the season opener in Foxborough coming our way. 1 o'clock Eastern time here on Sunday afternoon. Annabelle Hasselbeck, Jade McCarthy here with you to take you through. We got a packed show today, AB, right? I mean, we hear Josh talking about what he thinks he's going to get from Drake Maye in the season opener. We have boots on the ground out in Las Vegas to dive into expectations for this game and also to learn a little bit more about the handprint of, I don't know, a guy we know kind of well here in New England, like what his fingerprints are on that Raiders franchise. You can just take a wild guess as to who I'm talking about there. And we'll make some predictions ahead of the week as well here. The thing that struck me listening to Josh McDaniels, though, there is not just that he has high expectations for his quarterback in their first game together, regular season game together, I guess I should say. But also what we know about the Raiders. And I think that's really the most interesting part about this particular game for me is that we have two franchises who both have new coaches, who both have very different rosters than they were constructed a season ago, particularly here in New England, where Mike Vrabel has made many changes to this Patriots roster. And we don't know what we don't know, which basically is like, well, you might think this is the way the Raiders are going to come in and scheme and the way they're going to do things, but it might look a little bit different than you think it's going to look because there have been so many changes.
Jade, that's what's so fun about the NFL and specifically about week one. Even look at the game last night. Micah Parsons leaves the Dallas Cowboys. Everyone thought it was going to be an absolute blowout. The defending champs are going to do their thing at home. And that was a close game down to the wire, right? You think about that score. And so, we just really don't know how this game is going to go. But the storylines are just incredible for this game. Even what's really unfolded over the last 24, 48 hours. We're here in Foxborough and in Boston thinking, oh no, Gonzo might not play, but you know what? The Raiders just lost their veteran wide receiver. Amari Cooper retires out of nowhere. So, it's kind of been this back and forth since we started talking about this game. But, super excited, and I think you can still be very positive in the unknowns.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's where, Josh McDaniels' optimism is when it comes to Drake Maye, right? He's like, I see the way this guy practices. I see what he puts in and day out. And my expectations are going to be based upon that. And then it becomes a learning process and a growing process, both for coaches and for all the different positional groups across the football field. I know for me, I will certainly be watching Drake Maye in this game, and I know everybody will to an extent, AB, but I'm curious, how does he start this game, right? Like, what is his collectedness? What is his poise at the beginning? Because sometimes he goes out and he's like so amped up. And I want to know, what do the Patriots do to try to make that an effective amped up, for that first possession for New England in this football game as they get set to open the season?
Yeah, and Drake Maye's talked about that. He's been super honest throughout his entire time as a Patriot, just being vulnerable really about the level of intensity that he's going to be at in the spotlight that's on him. And he said, I got to get those layups first. Like, that really helps you break the ice as an athlete, especially when you have those season openers, right? You're not really in the flow yet. You haven't done it yet. You haven't been hit seriously yet. And so I think it's got to be those easy plays for him. Hit the check downs, give the ball to the running backs, let them do that, and really just break the ice, because he didn't get to start the season as the starter for the Patriots last year. So yes, this is his second year in the NFL with this team, but really it is his first year as the starting quarterback of this franchise.
Yeah. Here he is talking about what he expects out of the Las Vegas Raiders and, that guy named Max Crosby who will be on the other side.
What Coach Carroll's done in this league, they've had some great defenses, and obviously his scheme, and obviously the one, Crosby, jumps out on tape, and they got some veteran linebackers, some guys that play hard and come up and hit you. And I think they're good at what they do. I think you're gonna know they're gonna bring it every play. And I think for us, we just gotta stay ahead of the chains and try to do our best to get off to a good start. And then like I said, just follow our keys and 98. He's a great player in this league. Plays hard. Plays a lot of effort, and they got a veteran. A couple veteran safeties, so who's made some plays and good ball skills. So we gotta, gotta be on our game. It's good to be out there in week one, starting at home. So I'm excited and looking forward to it.
Drake, when it comes to Crosby, a lot of people look at the offensive line and how they handle him, but how can the rest of the offense maybe neutralize what he's able to do on the field?
Yeah, no doubt. I think it starts with me. Getting the ball out on time. Not holding it. Knowing don't bypass the first guy open. I see open, trying to hunt a deeper one. Help, different, the running backs can help, in the protection, I think little things like that. And I think scheme, I think me just getting us in the right plays and knowing when he's one-on-one and knowing when, we have help to him. And I think, from there, just, like I said, follow our keys and know if it's emphasis for us this week, then just, follow that and stay true to it.
Drake, are you comfortable enough in the new offense to be able to make those kind of quick reads and get rid of the ball quickly? Are you that comfortable with the offense and being able to read a defense and what's going to fit?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I think that's part of what we watch film for. That's part of what we come out here and practice for is knowing checkdowns and knowing, hey, my first look, if they're giving it to me, take it. And I think that's part of playing quarterback in this league, find completions. And I feel confident in myself. I feel like at times last year when I got the ball out on time and got the ball to the right guy, we moved the ball well. So I think just trying to start off this season with that mindset and like I said, stay ahead of the chains and do my part and finding completions and not holding the ball.
Do you think there's been an emphasis on getting the ball out quickly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, there has. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, right?
Listen, I love the yes, ma'ams. I absolutely love it. I lived in Nashville, came from Seattle, lived in Nashville, and the very first day of school, I'm in 4th grade, and I said yes to my teacher. She goes, "What did you say to me?" Pulls me out of the class and is like, "You say yes, ma'am." So I appreciate the respect and the yes, ma'ams that Drake Maye gives us at the podium. It throws me back to the days when my manners were supreme.
It's so funny. We just had a family move to our neighborhood from Texas, and all their kids, yes, ma'am, no, sir. It is ingrained. Like, no doubt about it.
You feel bad. Like, when you're you're like, I gotta, step up my game. Like, shoot. Like,
I know.
Yes,
I'm like,
yeah.
I gotta step this up with my kids. Like, whoa. Like, all right, guys, if you're over there, make sure, get those ma'ams and sirs down.
New family in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I feel it. But I agree with you. I love the respect there. But clearly there has been an emphasis, ma'am, on getting rid of that football and doing it early, and finding, whatever it may be. If it's that first, like, okay, we're not going to sit here. We're not going to hang on the football. We're going to try to avoid the number of sacks that Drake Maye took a season ago. Obviously, the protection against Max Crosby. I think this is something that we're both honing in on, AB. I know that Max Crosby is one of those X factors in this game for me. One, because of what he can do, and two, because it'll give us a glimpse of this Patriots offensive line and how well they're going going to be able to buy Drake Maye, and how much the run game can also help buy him a little bit of time to find that right completion to make, with the football.
It's been very evident that this has been the topic of conversation in that facility getting ready for this game with Max Crosby. You hear the wide receivers talking about how they can get open quicker. You hear the running backs talking about how they're going to help protect Drake Maye in the pocket. But then you also hear Vrabel saying that this is a job for everyone, not just one guy in the O-line. Depending on where Max Crosby will line up, he could line up anywhere. He could line up on the same side the whole game. Regardless, he's not going to end up at the same spot every single time. And so, yeah, it's definitely been a priority for this offense as a whole, not just on one guy.
Yeah, and we should also note that Will Campbell was added to the injury report on Thursday. He was limited in practice due to an ankle injury. So, again, those are the things that, can change awfully quick this time of year. So it's something to continue to keep tabs on. And is that going to inhibit what he's able to do out there on Sunday? Obviously, the hope is no. But again, something that, needs to be kept tabs on moving forward here. All right. When it comes to another component of this offense, so much talk since the Patriots signed him has surrounded Steph Diggs, of course, and what he's going to bring to this offense. We haven't had a chance to see him out there in a game situation. So much of the question has been, Steph, what do you think? Like pitch count? How you feeling headed into week one?
Well, he said it this week.
And we got a lot of weapons. Like for me, I'm not going in there man, I need nah, it's not that kind of party. I feel like we got a lot of guys that can make plays at a high level. And what I'm accustomed to doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just, it is what it is. At this point in my career, obviously, I'm excited just to get out there and just put more pressure on, make the most of your opportunities. I had talked to my receiver coach, Coach Todd, eat what's on your plate. If everybody got some plays here and there or whatever you got, if you got this many targets or that many targets, eat what's on your plate. And that's what's important to me at this point. And, squeezing that lemon and making fruit punch. That's what I'm trying to do.
Steph, are you expecting to be on a play count?
Hell no. Say no. I don't know. I don't make the rules, but we'll see how it goes. But I really hope not. But we'll see how it goes.
Hope not, right? I mean, look, I love it, right? Squeeze lemons and make some fruit punch and eat what's on your plate. I think that's exactly what you want to hear out of Steph Diggs, really out of any receiver in this league. And you could hope that they can go out there and have a huge impact, AB, and I'm sure they hope the same thing. But you want them to be as involved on every single play, whether they're getting the ball thrown to them for a completion or not.
Listen, I hope that Diggs gets a touchdown first quarter of the game, and the Patriots put a graphic on social media that has, the newsworthy quote graphic, but there it just says, squeeze that lemon, make fruit punch, or whatever the line was. I'm like, boom, let's see it. No, but in all seriousness, this is the time. I know it's been, is he going to play week one? Is he not? He's been quiet about it. Obviously, it's an injury. You don't want to give your opponents any leverage, but this is a landmark that Diggs has had circled on his calendar. It's been week one. Get ready for this game. And you can see how energetic he was when he heard about, hey, will there be a pitch count? But no, I think we're going to see a full go Steph Diggs. Will they have intentional plays for him? Yes. Are they going to have him out there run blocking? Probably not. Maybe you'll throw Mac Hollins in there for that. But I think we're going to get a really good look at Stephon Diggs in this game.
Yeah, I 100% agree on this one. I'll go on the other side of the ball when it comes to another component that I'm watching in this game, and that's Milton Williams. I think that, we saw the Patriots bring him in, obviously, signed him to that 4-year, $104 million deal in the offseason. This is why, right? It's for games like this. And you look at some of the stats from last year, he had a 12.9% quarterback pressure rate, which led all defensive tackles. The Patriots were 29th in the league in that statistic. So they needed to bring a body in, a player in, a person in that was going to be able to be effective in pressuring the other quarterback, in this case, Geno Smith. So I'm curious to see him in game form. Let's get it out there. Let's see what it's going to look like. What kind of pressure can this Patriots line bring upon opposing quarterbacks as they make their way into Foxborough?
Yeah, and he's the guy that they brought in and paid, right? They're hoping that he, like Diggs, has that impact on the team. But I think for me with this game, the big focus is on this offensive side. And I'm going to throw it back to what I used to do in the olden days. For the first 15 years of my life, I spent watching my dad play quarterback, and really my routine post snap was, okay, stare at the quarterback and do not let your eyes off of him until he is safe, until he is out of harm's way. That's all where I'm looking, and then look downfield and see, oh, was it a run, was it a pass? Like, that was my focus. And so that's what I'm going to do with Drake Maye for this game. How much protection can this new and improved young on the left side offensive line for the Patriots give him? And I think mainly too because it was the only thing we were talking about last season with the New England Patriots, and it was the focus that we've been talking about all preseason and throughout training camp. And so here's the day. We finally get to see it on Sunday, a great test against Max Crosby and the Raiders defense. So I think the question still for me is, how is this O-line going to protect Drake Maye? But I'm going to put on my blinders for this game, watch Drake Maye do his thing, see when he's out of harm's way, and then I'll be focused about the rest of the play.
I love it. I'm just going to focus on him. Like, I just need to make sure that he is okay. And it's not a bad way to watch a football game. I mean, certainly when Dad's out there, but beyond that, AB, because your quarterback is integral to who you are as a football team and the success that you're going to have any given season. That is just the reality. And we have seen more and more teams in recent years, I think it was more than ever last season, that rely on a backup quarterback to go out there and win at least a handful of games, because it's getting harder and harder for quarterbacks to stay in there for a full season. So it may sit there and put the binoculars on, put the blinders on, and hopefully watch Drake Maye stay upright in this one. The other thing, and I'm going to circle back a little bit to where we started. There are so many storylines, of course, in this game, when it comes to Pete Carroll, who was once here, and Josh McDaniels, who, of course, was once there in much more recent history than Pete Carroll's history. And the Patriots offensive coordinator was asked a little bit about that, and it just made me think of three words, and we'll listen to him in a moment here, but home sweet home. Like, that's what I thought of listening to Josh McDaniels. Here he is again.
Look, Pete's one of the best coaches in the history of our league, and has done it, in pro football for a long time at an elite level, coached in college football, same thing, produced wherever he's been, always has an incredibly difficult defensive perspective. It's changed some over the years. Everybody always says, well, everything's the Seattle 3. It's not all Seattle 3, you know what I mean? So he's evolved, and I think that's a sign of a great coach. He's evolved what he's done, depending on the people that he has, depending on the year that, you look at, it's not the same, and I think that's the mark of a great coach, is he looks at his team, decides what the strengths and weaknesses are, figures out how to use them the best way that he can. And so I just, we've seen a lot of different tape. We're not getting married to one game or another from the past, because there's nothing, you can't really, pinpoint one thing that you're going to get, an opening day. So just try to subject our guys to a little bit of, hey, historically they've done a little bit of this, they've done a little bit of that. When you add Patrick Graham in there and all the things Patrick's done, I mean, you got a Rubik's Cube, So we're just trying to, look, at the end of the day, it's about us, our fundamentals, our techniques, our approach, our communication, and ultimately our execution, and, taking care of the ball and giving ourselves an opportunity in the second half, because we know a lot of these games are won then.
Kind of takes us back to where we started, right? The week one, and you got to focus on those fundamentals, because you don't know exactly what you're going to get, just like your opponent doesn't know exactly what you're going to bring to the table. And then that emphasis at the end about the second half. And that's really something, AB, that we have seen Mike Vrabel emphasizing to this team, and the importance of winning the second half, and how significant that was for most teams, notably not New England, but most teams, in the opener of 2024.
Yeah, and I think Vrabel called it earlier this week, not getting too cute, right? With what McDaniels was saying, like you can prepare just as much as you can, and then you can't, right? But yeah, I think the Patriots have really wanted to implement that second half focus. I think they took a break in one of their practices earlier this week to really stimulate, okay, what is halftime going to feel like? How do we want our coaches to adjust? I want the players to feel that. And as a player, that's awesome, because you want to have practices that feel just like the games, that are almost harder than the game. And you got to know what to expect, right? And really feeling that, okay, mental recap here. Let's get back into it. Because like you said, I think I actually wrote down what Vrabel was referring to just about that second half stat. It's last year, 12 out of 16 teams won their season opener in the second half of the game. So Vrabel's looking at that and saying, all right, we got to be one of those teams this season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, they do. And they also have to do exactly what Josh just said, which is, they got to go out there. They got to play their game. They got to go out. They got to execute. They got to, make sure that they hit the fundamentals and do that consistently for 60 minutes. And hopefully it's not an elongated 60 minutes like it was for the Cowboys and the Eagles last night in the opener, when that halftime, all of a sudden, you trot back out there and then you're back in once again because you got a lightning delay that lasts about an hour and had all of us yawning. At least I was in my house. I mean, I'll just speak for myself here. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Foxborough Rush. When we come back, we promised boots on the ground to Vegas, and we'll get the Raiders' perspective on this game and the fingerprints of a well-known New Englander on this franchise. Stick around, much more straight ahead.
There were reports about, asking for a trade. Where are things with that, and how do you separate, the business side from going out there?
I asked, they said no, and that's kind of that's where that stopped. But I mean, I'm just keep doing my job until something shake out either way. Honestly, I don't know which way it's gonna go, but I'll be ready for whatever.
Are you pretty confident that something will work out here?
I wouldn't say I'm pretty confident. Like I said, I really don't know where it's gonna go, but I know, like I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to go if you want me to go. I'm ready to play if you need me to play. So.
Are you happy here?
Am I happy? It's a job, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, like I'm happy to be doing my job with my boys, but I could be happy anywhere.
So that was Jakobi Meyers. And then, of course, came this. Ian Rappaport, the first to say, come back no more. Amari Cooper has informed the Raiders that he no longer has the desire to play and intends to retire. Cooper has signed at the end of camp and a hopeful reunion with the team that drafted him. Now he is headed home from Las Vegas. So a 10-day tenure for Amari Cooper with the Las Vegas Raiders. And to talk more about that, and of course the season opener here in Foxborough, happy to welcome in the Athletics. Tashan Reed joining us, covers the Raiders and of course the National Football League. And you can also hear him on the Just Win podcast. All right, Tashan, when it comes to that wide receiver room in Vegas, there's certainly a lot to talk about these days. What did you make of, I guess, Amari's retirement when it came?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty surprising. They signed him just a week ago, and he went unsigned for most of the year, and so he hadn't participated in OTAs and training camp, and so you knew it was going to take him some time to get back up to speed and get back into playing shape. But I think he realized after practicing for the past week that he just didn't have it in him anymore. That desire that you need to get back in shape, to learn the system, to go out there and, take that punishment to your body that you have to, play in a game as physical as football. And football is one of those sports where unless you're all in, you're going to get hurt or you're just not going to be yourself. And I think he's a guy that, he's a former multi-time Pro Bowler. He's a prideful guy, high draft pick. He's used to playing and looking a certain way. And I think he just didn't feel like he had it in him anymore. And so he ultimately decided to walk away. And it did put the Raiders in a precarious position because they really did need that extra depth that they got by signing him. This is a really thin receiver room, and that also with Jakobi Meyers, that gives him a lot of leverage with his contract negotiations because outside of him, they don't really have anybody else in that room that's proven. And Amari Cooper was one guy you could say that about, and now he's gone. And so, again, it swings back to Jakobi Meyers and, kind of helps him build his case to try to get an extension.
You mentioned Jakobi Meyers, and he's a player who we heard opening this segment just saying he could be happy anywhere, but it is a job. But what do the Raiders do in order to have a wide receiver room that is hungry to be there?
Yeah, Jacoby, that's just kind of his speed. Like he's like that about anything, kind of that it is what it is mentality. And, he felt like his play last year, which was his best season in his career, justified an extension. And, what he's making now, $10.5 million, it's, down in the 30s in terms of average annual value amongst receiver. And he's a better player than that. And he knows that. And that market has, gone up a lot this year. But it is a business at the end of the day. And the Raiders did draft Jack Besh, rookie receiver, in the second round this year, who has a pretty similar skill set to Meyers. And you kind of see what the Patriots would do a lot of times. You get a guy's replacement before you lose the guy. And it feels like that's kind of what the Raiders did. And so you understand both perspectives. But Meyers, he's not a guy that's gonna, fake an injury or not give full effort. Like I know that, the Raiders fans are probably a little bit scorned from last year with Devontae Adams. When he requested his trade, he was out with a hamstring injury and didn't play, and then he got traded to the New York Jets, and suddenly he was out there again. And so Jacoby isn't going to go that route. He's going to still be out there, still practicing, still giving it his, still playing on Sundays. And he said that the main reason why he's doing that instead of holding out is just loyalty to his teammates. He's been here for a few years. He's close with a lot of the guys in the locker room. He's one of the more respected players in the locker room. And so he's going to give full effort. He's not going to be happy. Like I think you can tell by that video and his comments that he's definitely not happy, but that's not going to affect his performance on game days.
Do you think there's any chance that the Raiders will look to do some type of extension with him in season, or is this something that's just going to be tabled at this point?
I would be pretty surprised, just because, as I mentioned earlier, like when you draft somebody like Besh, who basically has the same skill set as Jacoby Meyers, it doesn't really make sense. It'd be one thing if Besh was a 4th-round pick, 5th-round pick, but a 2nd-round pick, you expect that guy to be a starter, and you expect him to be a starter soon. And if that's the case, it just doesn't really make sense to have him and Jacoby Meyers around. And so I would be pretty surprised if they extend Meyers at this point, just because it doesn't seem to add up with their moves in the offseason.
Another rookie, Dante Thornton, also going to need to step up for this team. What should we know about him as a player?
Yeah, he was sort of just a ball of traits coming into the league. I mean, his career high for catches in a single season in college was like 20-something, so he didn't have much volume, but he really stood out to them in the process because of how unique his skill set is. I mean, he's almost 6'5", about 210, ran a 4.3 flat, and you don't really see too many guys that have those type of measurables. I believe the only guys in the history of the combine who had those same measurables are Randy Moss and Calvin Johnson. And I'm not saying he's going to be, that caliber of player, but you can see why the Raiders were intrigued by his skill set. And I think he hit the ground running a lot faster than people expected. As early as OTAs, he was pretty entrenched as a starter on the outside and locked in as that X receiver for them. And that's continued to be the case through training camp. And it looks like he's going to be the starter in week 1. He's a guy that obviously has a lot of deep threat ability, downfield, big plays, but he's also improved his short to intermediate route running and become a more complete receiver. He's not going to be the number one option in this offense by any means. You have Brock Bowers, you have Jacoby Meyers, you have, Ashton Genty, who would be involved both as a runner and in the pass game. So there'll be a lot of other targets that the Raiders can go to, but that should actually free up Dante because he'll get a lot of single coverage. And if you're leaving a guy with that type of speed and size and single coverage, chances are he's going to make some big plays. And so that's what they're hoping for him as a rookie. And, he's kind of been a surprise because a lot of people looked to Jack Besh as a 2nd-round pick. You would expect that would be the guy that would emerge as a starter, but it's actually been Thornton who stepped up as a 4th-round pick for him this year.
Yeah, I heard some people in fantasy circles mentioning his name as someone to pick up late in a draft. And if he's still there on your board, maybe go and grab him. He's someone who could make some noise. Let's look at this game this weekend, Tashan, because I don't know about you, but this one is really intriguing to me because you have 2 new head coaches, obviously some changes within, the 53 on both of these teams. Really in New England, Mike Vrabel's made a lot of changes. How do you see this one on Sunday?
Yeah, it's kind of the interesting and rare case of a double revenge game, right? Because you got offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels going against the team that fired him on Halloween, and then you have Pete Carroll, who got fired by the Patriots way back in the day, and then also lost that Super Bowl. Yeah, lost that Super Bowl when he was the head coach of the Seahawks. So there's a little bit of bad blood on both sides in this one, and that adds a little extra intrigue to it. But I do think these teams are in similar places. Like, obviously, they had pretty rough seasons last year, made a coaching change, made a lot of changes to the roster. They have really young teams and sort of these teams that are in this transitional period and trying to figure out who they are. I think they're still trying to discover themselves. And so it's kind of hard to, set expectations for this game on Sunday, but I do think they're pretty evenly matched, and I think it would be a close one that goes down to the wire. And ultimately, it's going to come down to who executes better in those late game moments and which coach has the upper hand. And I think these coaches are pretty evenly matched too. I mean, Pete Carroll, Mike Vrabel, two of the best in the business. And so I'm expecting a tight one, and it should be a pretty exciting one as well.
Two teams that are in very similar situations coming off of last year with new head coaches that have tenured in the NFL. But Mike Vrabel here in Boston has definitely made his stake. He's definitely made a statement and really had some key moments, getting a cut on his cheek from a moment at training camp and some joint practices, even getting into the fire. What moment for you has stuck out about Pete Carroll's just preseason so far with the Raiders?
So they were actually practicing indoors. It was kind of a similar moment, and they were sort of doing this tush-push drill, trying to figure out how to stop it. And literally as they snap the ball, Pete Carroll jumps into the push. And he gets on top of the pile, and I don't think the players knew he was going to do that. He kind of got stuck. It took him a while to get out. So yes, even though he's a lot older than Mike Vrabel, he has a ton of energy. He's not afraid to get in there with the guys, but that sort of always compete mentality and that energy that he brings to the table is something that the players are really adopted to really quickly. Obviously, Pete Carroll has an excellent resume. He's most likely going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame one day. But, that's not enough to win over guys' respect at this level. These players have done things and accomplished things and been around legendary coaches in their own right. And so you have to be able to connect to them on a human level and relate to them. And that's something that I think Pete Carroll has really managed to pull off on a really quick basis. He has guys that he's coached before, like Geno Smith, starting quarterback, but he's been able to ingratiate himself with new guys like Max Crosby as well, he didn't previously know. And so I think that element of it, really drilling in on that human connection piece and managing to pull it off in a really quick way to where he's, sort of galvanized the locker room, instilled his culture, and the guys are all in. It just comes down to, how good is the team, but I think that, they're set up to where if this isn't the best season or if they have to overcome some adversity, they aren't going to fall apart and turn on each other. It'll still be tough to deal with, but I think this is a team that can stick together through those tough moments. And that's, as a coach, that's part of why you put so much effort towards, leaning into those interpersonal relationships.
Tashan, you wrote a piece for The Athletic that came out today, and you spoke to Pete Carroll for part of it. And one of the things that he talked about was that Tom Brady really changed his viewpoint of the Las Vegas Raiders and, his perspective on what it would be as a head coaching job, knowing that he wanted to coach in this league again after being out last season. But it was Brady that really made him look at Vegas differently. Tell us a little bit more about your piece. And we all know Brady real well here in New England, but what he now means to this Las Vegas Raiders franchise.
Yeah, there aren't many franchises that have been consistently dysfunctional as the Las Vegas Raiders. They haven't won a playoff game since I was 6 years old, I believe it is. And so, it's been a lot of head coaching changes, a lot of losing, not much to be happy about. And, that was the case in Al Davis's later years, but it's also been the case for Mark Davis's entire tenure as owner. And since they've been in, Las Vegas alone, they cycled through 4 different head coaches, 4 different GMs. And that only happens if a lot of bad stuff is happening. And so, I think Mark Davis kind of looked internally and realized this franchise is missing something, like not just a different head coach or GM, but we need somebody with a different level of football acumen that he frankly just doesn't have. Like, he's a fan of the team and he's really passionate about it. And he knows everything going on with the team, but he just doesn't have that football knowledge. And he really wanted to bring in somebody that had that. And, few people know football more than Tom Brady. And so, given his Fox role and things of that nature, they kind of had to get creative and figuring out how to bring him in. But, him buying into that minority ownership stake of the team opened the door for him to essentially have this, hands-on involvement with the team where he's not a team employee, technically, and he doesn't have an official role in the front office, but he's almost like a senior advisor for the primary football decision makers. And so when it comes to deciding whether they're going to go trade for Geno Smith or prior to that, when they're deciding who they're going to hire as their head coach or GM or during training camp when they're trying to evaluate the roster, like he's somebody that's readily accessible, and whether that's over the phone or if he comes in town to Las Vegas and is on site for those meetings and to speak to the team and things of that nature. And so his hands have already been all over this franchise, even though it hasn't been a full year since he bought into the team. And it's something that's going to continue and probably only continue to grow into the future, as the years go on. It's hard to say what the end goal is for Tom Brady. I'm sure that, he would love to be the controlling owner of a team one day, but that's something that we'll probably have to play out over the course of quite a few years from now.
On a scale of 1 to 10, sorry, AB, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put his involvement number if 10's the most?
10. He's very, very involved, really involved. He's not here every day. He doesn't live in Las Vegas, but he's talking to John Spytek, the GM, to Pete Carroll, to Alex Guerrero, essentially who's running their training staff now. He's talking to all of them on a daily basis. So he has his finger on the pulse with this franchise day in and day out.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask, because in your article, you really talked about how, hey, it might not actually be how it seems. His involvement, like you're saying, is a 10. And just for the Patriots fans that are going to watch this ahead of Sunday's game against the Raiders, how worried do you think they should be if that is a 10 with Tom Brady's involvement?
I don't know how worried they are. You know, they might have some mixed feelings about it. I know the Raiders and the Patriots, like, it's been a while, but they do have some bad blood, some from the Tuck Rule game. It's more about the Raiders fans, I think, towards the Patriots fans than the other way around. You know what I mean? So I don't know how much Patriots fans are worried about the Raiders, but I'm sure it is weird for them. Just like it was weird for them seeing him in the Bucs jersey and winning the Super Bowl. I'm sure it is strange seeing him like walk out of a tunnel in that white Raiders jacket. You know, it probably just feels a little bit off. And, Brady won't be there. He'll be calling, as we mentioned earlier with his other job, he'll call the Commanders-Giants game in D.C., so he won't be there on site, so maybe that'll lessen it a little bit. But it is kind of weird. You know, I mean, his old team is going to be taking on his new team in the stadium where he has a statue outside. So it is a pretty strange
right? All the different pieces, like, talk about having your fingers on a lot of different things. There is an image right there that sums that up on Sunday when he is in a different state entirely. Alex Guerrero, of course, someone else who, you know, we're very familiar with here in New England, and he's now out there, and you've written about that as well. Like, what is his role now with the Raiders? We know Brady relied so heavily on him throughout the course of his career.
Yeah, no, Alex is a very polarizing figure out in New England, depending on who you talk to, you know, Bill Belichick being one of them. But, he did essentially do the same thing he did with the Patriots down with the Bucs when they won that Super Bowl with Brady there. And, I kind of asked the same thing when I saw his title, wellness coordinator. Like, what does that mean? You know, like, I've never seen that title in the NFL team. It basically just gives him purview over the training staff. So, whether that's strength and conditioning, whether that's medical, whether that's mental health, he sort of has his hands in all those areas, and he's bringing essentially the TB12 method to the Raiders. It's something that Tom is very involved in as well, and talks to Alex every day about how they're going about their business. And, Alex, the focus for him is really on avoiding those soft tissue, non-contact injuries, the torn ACLs, the Achilles, those sort of season enders. It's just football, so you can't really avoid concussions or broken bones and things of that nature. But those types of injuries are what he's trying to avoid with the Raiders, and so far that's been the case. They have a couple players on injury reserve, Aiden O'Connell and safety Lyndon Johnson, but both of those are due to broken bones. And so at least so far this year, they haven't had those soft tissue injuries. Like, it's only been, it hasn't even been a year yet, so it's too early to say, like, Alex has figured it all out, and it's a non-issue moving forward. But they're off to a good start, and it's something that I think some fans are a little skeptical about because of how everything went down with the Patriots. But at least so far, it's been a non-issue for the Raiders.
All right, last but not least, Tashan, give us a score prediction. I know you're expecting this one to be a close one. How do you see it finishing off?
Yeah, so I'll stick with my prediction that I made on my podcast. I have the Raiders winning 24-20. I do think it's going to come down to the wire, but I like the Raiders' firepower on offense a little more with Geno Smith, new offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. We mentioned the receivers earlier, but also Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. I think they have a lot of firepower on offense, and their offensive line is a little shaky. And so if the Patriots can get after Smith and affect him, that could flip things. But I also think the Patriots, we'll see on Christian Gonzalez if he ends up playing or not. I know he hasn't practiced this week. I don't think they made a final determination of if he's going to play, but I think that would be a big loss if he is out. And so I think I give the edge to the Raiders, even though they're going into hostile territory up there in New England.
I see it similarly. I think it's going to be a close one. We'll see how it all shakes out. AB and I will make some picks coming up still ahead here on Foxborough Rush. Tashan Reed, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Safe trip to New England. We'll be back with more Foxborough Rush right after this. Foxborough Rush coming back at you, and this news coming out of Foxborough, Ari Myrov among those to report that the Patriots have ruled out Christian Gonzalez because of that hamstring injury that he has been dealing with when it comes to the opener against the Las Vegas Raiders. Also notable, I mentioned this, the rookie left tackle Will Campbell is now questionable with an ankle injury. He was limited in practice yesterday, AB. So, look, I mean, there were a lot of people that were looking at Gonzo as a swing factor in this game. I think a lot of people see it as a close one, you know, whether it be the Raiders or the Patriots by 3-4. I feel like I've seen that all around. Does this become the determining factor in the Patriots being able to get a win? I think Mike Vrabel and company would say, no, we are going to play the guys that we have, and we still expect to, have a chance to go out there and complete our fundamentals, do what we have to do, and win this football game. How do you see this one shaking out when it comes to week 1 in New England?
Yeah, well, the Gonzo situation is something that I think people were expecting. I think they would go crazy if they thought that he was going to play for week 1. But what's really surprising and scary really was Will Campbell being questionable for this game. But listen, the first words out of Will Campbell's mouth were, "I'm going to fight and die to protect my quarterback." So wrap that thing up. You're telling me he's not going to be on the blind side protecting Drake Maye for this game? I know it's a little scary to see your starting left tackle be questionable before the season opener, but man, just from what I've seen from this guy, there is no way that if his ankle isn't hanging off the bone, he's not playing in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's questionable. That doesn't mean he's doubtful. There's obviously a lot of different ways that they could have listed this. They're going to have to keep tabs on it, right? I mean, you got to be able to use your ankles as an O-lineman. There's a lot of intricate movement that takes part. But I would be surprised as well if he is not out there protecting Drake Maye. I like the Patriots in this game. I do think it's going to be a close one. I've said this like 10 times today on the show alone. This is a really tricky one to me just because there have been so many changes both here in New England and, with the Las Vegas Raiders. Their receiver room, obviously, I think a lot of people are curious what it's going to look like. Of course, they do have a tight end in Brock Bowers who's basically in a receiver's body, as I heard him called that this week in Foxborough. But I'll take the Patriots to win the home opener here against Vegas. What about you, AB?
I like that. Yeah, it's going to be a close one. I'm thinking like 27-24. I'm going to take the Patriots at home. Drake Maye, it's going to be so helpful for him to get to be in Gillette to open up this season. And I think we're really going to see some fireworks from Travion Henderson and Steph Diggs, right? Like that's what the Patriots are hoping for. So I think with the unknowns, I'm going to go on the upside for the Patriots.
Yeah, I like it. All right, let's run through a couple other picks for games this weekend. We'll start with the one tonight down in Brazil. It is, of course, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and all the fanfare that comes with the Kansas City Chiefs these days, taking on the LA Chargers down there. This one's a little interesting to me. I think the Chiefs are super hungry because of the way the season ended, because the dismantling that took place by the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. I also think that, Jim Harbaugh is having an impact on that Chargers team, and he is working to make a substantial difference. So I wrestled with this one a little bit, but because I think it's a bit more of a neutral site for the Chargers than it would be if it weren't in Brazil. But I'll still go Kansas City to win this one.
Man, I would love to go to Brazil. First of all, I'm like, that's kind of sick. Think about for all those players that probably will never go or will never have the chance to be there, right? Like, what an awesome opportunity that is, number one. I highly doubt they're getting any opportunity to go out and check out the city, but still really cool, and it just shows you the NFL's desire to really expand and make the league more worldwide. But yeah, I think with the Chiefs coming off the season that they had and the championship loss they had last year, they have a chip on their shoulder, and that's scary, right? This is a Chiefs team that is actually upgraded in certain spots, especially the offensive line, just giving Patrick Mahomes more ability to do whatever he wants. And yes, Jim Harbaugh definitely has this team on the rise, and they've added in their own ways too. But I think just going with the experience that the Chiefs have as a team together and the hunger that they have, I think it's really scary.
All right, let's just roll through the division real quick here. Miami opens up the season at Indy. This is one of those games that, gosh, it has been so many years, AB. 2013 was the last time that Indy won in week 1. Last time, 2013. I just have to repeat that.
I was playing Just Dance in 2013, I think. Like, that's how far back that is. I was playing like Just Dance.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I think it's still going to be a while. I think Miami's going to take this one against the Colts.
Yeah, you know what? Just because I lived in Indiana, did the cornfield lifestyle for a couple years, I'll go with the Colts. I hope they can break that streak. I think Daniel Jones has the opportunity here to resurge his career, and hopefully they're able to do that. They've upgraded and really have an aggressive offense. So I think for that reason, the drama in Miami worries me. I think the locker room and the culture that you have there really comes first when you talk about coming into the season in week 1 specifically. So I think I'll go with the Indianapolis Colts for this one.
The New York Jets, of course, host, Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. In their opener, haven't really talked to Aaron Rodgers when he asked some of the guys there since he left the Jets. I think the Steelers will take the opener and the Jets will start 0-1.
I'm going to go with you there. Like, what an awesome matchup. Like, the drama. Like, you could literally make, like, a reality TV show that's like a full season of Hard Knocks.
The greatest reality TV show there is.
And we get to watch it every week, not only on Sundays, but now on Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the games that the NFL is playing. But yeah, I got to go with the Steelers on this one. I think Rodgers gets a lot of hate in the media, but really I think he'll have a good year. I think what we saw with the Jets was disappointing, not only to Jets fans, but to him specifically. And I think with DK and just the Steelers leadership that they have in Tomlin, I think they're going to take this one.
Yeah. There's a reason that he's been around and has never had a losing season. All right, Baltimore takes to the road to Buffalo for Sunday Night Football. This is a tilt that everybody is fired up to watch. Buffalo, of course, 10-0. They just don't lose at home. But I am going to pick Baltimore to go in there and win this football game. I think the way the season ended for them, I think that left a really bad taste in their mouth. And I think they're going to find a way to go in there. I think defensively, I just have a little bit more confidence in who they are at this point in time. So I will take the Ravens to go hand the Bills a loss to open the season.
The Ravens have an incredible roster, and this is a game that I think everyone is highly anticipating, and is probably going to could be the game, one of the games of the year. He just here in week 1, but I think Bills at home. They extended James Cook, and the Ravens they haven't historically shown up in these big games when it matters the most. So I think for that reason, I got to go Bills Mafia for this one.
Bills Mafia for the win. Gosh, they are intimidating. I'll tell you, they really are. Intimidating and kind of lovable.
You didn't hear that here.
Yes. And kind of lovable. I mean, I know you didn't hear it here, but I mean, I just got to be honest. All right, much more Foxborough Rush. Got to take a quick break. We'll see you on the other side.
Bill Belichick banning your scouts from UNC.
Oh, no, that's an individual choice, and we'll cross that bridge. When we start looking at players, I want to focus on our football team, and that's their prerogative, to make the decisions that they feel like are best for them, and then we'll have to find other ways to get the information for any players that we want to look at in North Carolina.
That Bill Belichick banning of New England players is a story that has certainly gathered steam in the last couple of days since it was first reported. AB, from what I understand, the ban is only against New England scouts, but the access has not been great for a number of teams across the National Football League. To me, the worst part of this is the fact that the players at UNC, their hope is that Bill Belichick, who coached in this league and who had so much success in this league, can help them find a way to this league. And he's now making it harder for them. That's the part of it, I think, that really bugs me when I first heard this story.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you would get excited about having Bill Belichick as your coach, right? Like the opportunities that he's going to bring your program. So ultimately, like how strange this is and how mad Bill Belichick is with his relationship clearly with the New England Patriots. Like this is affecting the kids and this is affecting their opportunities. You know that, they're going to have access to looks and coaches to see them, but really it's not a great look at all.
Yeah. Neither was the opener on the field against TCU, of course. So yeah. It's been a rough week. It's been a rough week. Hopefully things will turn around against Charlotte. But, much to look forward to as we hit the weekend here. Game you're most excited to watch. You're not allowed to pick the Patriots against the Raiders. Give me the game you're most excited to watch.
You know what? I think the game in Brazil. Let's go tonight. Chiefs Chargers, come on. Like, that's different. Why not? There's got to be something the NFL is going to pull out other than it just being in Brazil. I'm excited to see how they show up. What is this Chiefs team going to look like following that championship loss? So we'll see.
Yeah, Travis Kelce wants his own ring after he handed out another ring.
He does.
T Swift might perform at halftime. We heard Roger Goodell say that's a possibility. So we'll see. It's certainly a fun start. It's nice to get the games going. I am pumped for that Sunday night game, and I'm also really excited for the NFC South matchups this weekend because there's a couple really good ones when it comes to Detroit taking on Green Bay. That is going to be a blockbuster, I think. And then, of course, the Monday night game, with Caleb Williams and Jade McCarthy making his debut. So those will be fun to watch. Hey, look, there's football, right? Like we got regular season football coming our way.
Let's go for the people in the back.
Exactly.
till February, so it's not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. Enjoy it. Soak it in the first weekend that it's here. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being with us here on Foxborough Rush.